Eli has a saying, if you follow what you love, the money will come.
Yeah,
Um, it's not my belief, but like I believed him enough
money always comes.
to try it, and it was true.
Hey, what is going on? Welcome to the Wake Up Warrior podcast. I have two of my favorite people here with us today. These are my breadcrumb people. I got Eli and Steph. Eli and Steph, please say hey.
Hey.
So, I actually met Eli and Steph from back in the day at Primavera Preschool. They were parents of two beautiful young ladies at Ava's preschool, and through parties and all that, with them just being super dope, I've latched on and become I'm a breadcrumb kid. I follow what they do. They're a little bit ahead of me, and I've been super fortunate to get to know both of them. So thank you both for that.
For sure. We're grateful to get to know you. I mean,
Come on.
yeah.
Eli, I've reached out to you a couple times, man. Just as a man, as a father, as a husband, you've modeled some amazing things for me, and I appreciate
Thank you.
that. And Steph, you're dope. I mean, somehow this guy got you, so I'm hoping to find my Steph one day.
I didn't know what happened.
So why Steph and Eli are here is because both of them had the courage, the tenacity, the audacity to change careers, a little bit later in life. They're both very well established and found the courage to change careers. And I wanted to just have them come on and talk a little bit more about that. Uh, both of you, whichever you wants to go, how did you get over that initial fear? I mean, I hear a lot of parents talk about.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go first.
Yeah,
So
that's how I know. That's how I know Steph runs shit, because Eli was like, "Baby, who
Yeah, check,
is
double
it?"
check, make sure, confirm. Now we can proceed. There we
Yes,
go.
yes.
So I think our stories are going to be very, very different on this particular one, and I think it's just kind of how we see the world. And when before we got married, and then as getting married, and then changing as you're married, you kind of build off of the person, and you grow with that person. Um, I have always been a person who explores, tries new things. I see something, I go, oh, I'm curious what it's like to um, bake multi-layer cakes. I'm going to learn how to do that. Oh, I wonder what it's like to be a stand-up comedian. I'm going to try that.
That
Oh,
is
I
the
wonder what it's like to do this.
engineer.
I'm going to try that. So I'll just try things. I don't mind I enjoy the journey of like figuring things out. And I come from a family of, we are always exploring and trying things. My parents are very, I wonder what it's like to make a perfume. I'm going to try that. I wonder what it's like to make this particular thing. I'm going to try that. Like we don't hesitate. So that's just the culture.
Is that why engineering was an easy choice for you?
I think engineering was the choice of trying not to be Poe. It's like I don't like I gotta life. You learn, you grow up through different um phases of life. My kids are very different life than my life, right?
Mm.
So I like watching shows like Blackish, because you go, okay, I relate to that story. My kids didn't are living a different existence. They have a different reality than I had. But
Without a doubt.
yeah, so I think my family's just always adventurous, trying things. I think that culture was put in me, and I've always had that in life. So career wise, to the main question you asked, I had been working in the investment banking industry, in a technology role, different roles along the way, trying different things, but in the investment banking industry for 20 years, I want to say 20 years. Yeah.
And that's when
And
we met.
I was there when we met. Yes.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah, so I was working at JP Morgan Chase at the time, and I actually no, I think I was at a startup at the time. I was at a financial services startup, and so I've always been in the financial services industry, and that's just kind of the lane I was in. And I think when you come out of college and you start your career, sometimes you join one industry and you kind of just build in that industry. And I had done it for a really, really long time, and I just kind of had this itching interest to try something else. I had a colleague that was at Google. I had some other colleagues at other tech companies. I always was curious about working at tech companies, and I wanted to do something that felt like it had large positive social impact at scale. So, like,
Okay.
when you think about like financial services, often the work you're doing is more about like how do we take money and make more money. Whereas if I look at a place like Google where I work now, a lot of the things we're trying to do, we're thinking about how are we helpful to society? How are we helpful to people? How do our tools make life easier for people, helpful to people, bring them the information that they need, and make it easily accessible? So a lot of the things that Google was doing were really appealing to me, and so I began pursuing a career change. Similar types of functions of work in terms of the skills that I've learned along the way, but a very different industry and culture than what I had
Was that an
been
easy switch for
before.
you? Like, as soon as you decided you were on the hunt for it, or like what
Well,
obstacles did you come up against, and how did you get over 'em?
I think the obstacles is a mix. So you first have the obstacle of the mental hurdle of, do I want to switch what's become something I know a lot about and give up a lot of credibility from an expertise standpoint and start that again? And that wasn't too bad of a hurdle to kind of get over for me. I was like, oh, I'm fine to take a new challenge. Then there's the hurdle of, am I on the path that is good for me as Eli, good for my wife, good for my kids, spiritually, mentally, or is this the right thing to do? And that one, even after I took the job, I'm still like, and I'm happy. I know it's the right thing I did, but there's always that piece of you that's like, oh, was it? Am I on the right pathway in life? Is this where God wants me? Is this where I'm headed? And then ultimately, though, I think the hurdles are just things you either do or you don't do. And then once you do it, you have to push. And then the hurdles are like interviewing and pressing and keep pursuing, pursuing, pursuing. I think I was interviewing with Google for
over a
over a
year.
year until the job
Wow.
landed. I think I might have had like 18 different interviews before
Did you know
we
from the
became
get that you were
a deal.
gonna have to move from Florida to New York? Was that like a from the onset? Did you
No,
know that was the thing?
no, I attempted to stay local. That was step one. Like, how do I not leave? I really liked living in Tampa. I love the sun. I
Hey, we
love
miss you guys. Come on back.
people. I love my people, like yourself. I wasn't urgent to leave Tampa.
How
I
was that how'd that conversation go once you realized you had to? Obviously, I'm sure there's a family conversation. How did you two approach that? Especially since at the time you were working as well.
I was not
Steph was
as eager to
good.
stay in Tampa.
She was good.
Oh,
She
she was
she had
ready.
No,
she had
yeah,
mentally
I
checked
was
out
excited to
and
go in.
was good to go. I think she was ready for an adventure. So I guess, and you could talk about yourself and your mindset, but I think Stephanie is a person of geographic adventure, always ready for the next location. Or travel or sightseeing or whatever. I though, moving wise, I think we came to a resolution on it, but I was supposed to move to California. And so we were planning to go to California first. That was the whole plan. Pandemic hit, life hits, all of that. And I think during that cycle of pandemic and COVID, it was just a reflection on our longer term values. What do we want for ourselves? What do we want for our kids? We wanted them to have more of a relationship with their grandparents, with their
Mm.
cousins, with their aunts and uncles. We wanted more of that, and moving back to where we grew up, New York and
And that
Connecticut.
Northeast vibe is unmatched.
Yeah, Northeast is
It's
Northeast. Like,
unmatched.
yeah. So I mean, I think we just kind of were like, you know what? Let's move back, settle in up north, and Google, was flexible about that. So
And
moved
my
with
man,
them.
so obviously it sounds like my man Eli, he was like, you know what, I want this, I'm gonna go after it and go get it. Steph, You, when we
job.
met, were a counselor at a school,
Yeah, actually, I'm a school psychologist at a school.
psychologist. My apologies.
Yeah,
And so then you transitioned to now you are an author
I
writing
am.
children's
Yeah,
books,
I'm a children's
which
book
is,
writer.
I
Yeah.
mean, that jump is astronomical, completely
Yeah,
different.
in
I
some
mean,
ways. Yeah.
Yes.
similar audience,
Hmm.
but a wildly different perspective while reaching that audience.
Hmm.
Was that, I mean, how did that journey even begin?
Probably decades ago. I've always just been someone who I enjoy writing and I like creative pursuits. I'm always into something new, whether I think I've done like pottery and writing and just different. I'm always making something in some
For
form or
sure.
other.
Both of you very, very
Yeah,
creative.
both of us. Yeah,
Mhm.
but I'm different than Eli in that I don't just jump into things. Like I feel like I have to get credentials. I need a degree before I do something. Like full speed ahead.
I don't need credentials.
Yeah, I need
Facts. I'll catch them on, I'm with you. I'll catch them on the way. So there's not really a writing credential other than a book, right? Like
you could get
how
an
did you find
MFA.
the, oh, I'm
You
sorry, go
can.
ahead.
You can go to school for writing. You can get an MFA, and you can
Okay.
get the credentials. I did not, um, but I think a little bit
Well, you
of
did some study.
yeah, I totally yeah. Eli rubbed off on me a little bit, so I kind of took baby steps towards it. So while I was practicing school psychology, I started taking courses in children's book writing. I eventually went part time just to kind of test the waters a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, and then I think that what really pushed me over the line was like I started to have doors open. So I was able to get an agent. So that gave me a little more confidence. I was able to sell a book, a second book, and that gave me more confidence. And I think with each step, I kind of was able to push myself a little farther.
And so you had been writing for decades and you get this first break, this second break, obviously building the confidence. But when you were writing early on, did you see this version of things, or when did you realize that you really wanted to take a shot at being an author exclusively?
Yeah, I think I always dreamed about it, but I don't think I necessarily thought like that could be a reality. I remember saying even before we had kids, like, oh, when my kids are young, I'll write books during their nap time and I'll become an author that way. But you can't do a whole lot when your kids are napping, so
Oh no, you
maybe
trying to
that
nap
never
too?
will. Huh? Yeah,
I said you're
yeah,
trying to nap as well. See,
yeah.
even the dog agrees.
Tired all the time.
No, for
Yeah, for sure. And so tell me a little bit more about the books that you're writing, the stories that you're telling.
Yeah, my first few books are just like family narratives. I feel like where I've been most successful in writing is just writing what I know. So
Mm.
I've written about family and just like some meaningful relationships I've had as a child, and people connected with them, which is interesting. Like, so my mom is Cape Verdean. She's from her family's from the Cape Verde Islands, and there's just some cultural nuances that go along with Cape Verdean culture. And I wasn't sure how much others would connect with it, but there's a saying like the more specific you are in writing, the more universal it becomes. And editors liked it. They could. My agent, her family's actually from China, and she was able to relate to different pieces that I was talking about, which was cool. So I've kind of dug into what I know,
Mhm.
and yeah, that seems to be enough.
Authentic.
What kind of advice would you give to someone who's thinking about taking that leap? Maybe I haven't written my first full book, or maybe I'm thinking about writing a novel as opposed to children's books. Like, what would you say are the first few steps to
Yeah.
someone in that genre that's thinking about going out and, maybe even going part-time with it like you started out?
Yeah. So I remember being in that seat maybe like 15 years ago. I had a coworker who wrote a book, and I knew I wanted to write a book at some point. I was like, how do you go about it? Like, do I need to go take classes? She's like, honestly, just write it. Like that's what sets apart people who have books and who don't have books. Just write it. And the magic really happens in the revisions. So you get down your story or whatever you're writing on paper, and then it's a long process of revising and figuring out what message you're really trying to get across. So that it sounds simple, but just the mere fact of putting it down on paper is
W-
the
So
best first step.
what led to that for you? So obviously, I mean, the just writing, that was that makes sense, right? Like you write it. Once you have it, then you can shop it, you can pitch it, all those things.
Yeah.
What was there a moment, or were you just like, hey, I'm just gonna start writing like she said, or did you start writing back then?
Um, so I started taking these classes, which kind of held me a little bit accountable. I had to hand
Got
in
it.
assignments, so that was the
Ah,
start
okay.
of something. Um, yeah, I did that, and then I think once I went part time with work, that put the pressure on because I couldn't go part time and not be feel like I was working towards something. So I just started taking a risk. And honestly, the when I did start writing, it was bad. It wasn't good at all. But it's through that revising process that it becomes something worthwhile.
I love that you say that because I remember looking at my first YouTube videos and
Yeah,
I'm like, that dude is trash,
yeah,
bro.
really crappy.
Yeah, and then obviously you continue to do it, and the more you do it, the
Yeah, you
better at
learn.
least you feel you get.
You learn as you practice.
For sure. And then so after you got the first one done and you have the agent and you're going like how did you guys and what did you guys discuss about Steph going part-time? Right? Was that easy? Was that was as she started writing more, did you have I mean, I don't know a better way to say it. Did you have money on the table for
It,
more books or was it kind of like we're just going to take a shot and see what happens?
I will say from my perspective, then, you know, I'll say this. I think in when you're trying to be your healthiest as a married couple, it's marriage is like it's a journey. You're always learning, you're always growing, you're always figuring out how to be your best partner, be the best you can for your partner, right? So when you first get married, sometimes you're a little more selfish, and the longer you're married, you're less selfish. Um, I think for me, I was very fine, very quick with Stephanie pursuing it, even though, yes, I love having a dual income household. I also love my wife enough that I want her to be happy, and I'm thoughtful. How do we give space for us to collectively share in the challenge, right? So I'm not here to say, "Oh, Stephanie, take 10 years and figure this out." But I think we were both on the same page. Like, okay, let's see, let's give yourself a year and let's see what happens, and let's exist with one for the year and see where we go. And I think that also adds some pressure for her. It makes it open for me. I know we're not like it's not forever, and then we'll reassess again later. And I'm sure she would do the same. Well, she did. I mean, when we moved to Tampa, I took a pay cut for us to move to Tampa.
Yeah, yeah,
And that was me trying something different and exploring things. So I think you do that in relationship. You ebb and flow, and you give those options, right?
yeah. Eli has a saying, if you follow what you love, the money will come.
Yeah,
Um,
Mm.
it's not my belief, but like I believed him enough
money always comes.
to try
Yeah,
it, and it was true.
and that's from my dad. He would always say that. Like we weren't very wealthy growing up, but no matter what, like if we were like, oh, but we really want to be able to do this thing, he'd be like, be patient. The money always comes,
Yeah, it's
and
very
you
casual.
just wait and be patient. And once
Listen,
you
I've
know,
seen
you
them.
get
It's coming. It's flowing. I've seen your parents, Eli. The money is coming. It's
you know
came.
what?
Listen, it's done come. So listen, everybody, because
You,
Eli's dad's got it. If
I
you doing
can't
what you
with
love, the money
you.
will come.
You are a mess.
Listen, I've
Yes,
seen the family. If he wants to
you
sprinkle
know
some
what?
of that, down to me. Yeah, listen.
I'm just a sprinkle, like the song.
Yes, all the way. And so so Steph, as you're reaching out when you had this, was it an easy conversation to bring to him like, "Hey, I want to do this?" Was it something that you were even like was you nervous about it at all or did you feel that the relationship was strong enough that it wasn't really going to be an issue?
Yeah, I think Eli brought the conversation to me more than I brought it to him.
Oh, I love that.
This is in you. You need to do this. Yeah, I'm
Well, you
honest.
were,
Honest, I don't think I would have jumped out as quickly and as fast without Eli by my side, for sure.
yeah, but you
For
were
sure.
not happy with your current
Yeah, and I think I
situation.
had reached a
So
place in what I was doing that Like it just didn't feel like what I was supposed to be doing anymore.
And when you're
I've had a
creative,
couple
that
people
spills
here.
out to everything. It spills out to
I've
everything.
had a couple people here who have been in schools who have said the same, like,
Yeah,
man, I just got to that point, especially around that 2020, 2019
yeah,
range.
sure,
I've
yeah.
heard a lot. I mean, I've had a few people on the show who have been in education that were like, yo, I had to go.
Yeah, definitely makes
Hmm.
you take a step back and prioritize for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not easy, I think. For me, I think the biggest thing was that that was something I had trained to do. I had spent years in college and grad school, and I'm still paying student loans, so that felt like a huge risk. Um, but it's paying off.
And so now, as a writer, do you feel any pressure for the next book, or are you on a consistent flow? Like, is there a personal pressure? Like, okay, so this is paying the bills. Now we have to provide the content, or is it feeling pretty natural for you now that you're in it?
I think there's always pressure. I did well with my first couple books, and you want to keep the momentum going. I think right now I have this a little bit of a window because my first book doesn't come out until 2025. So like my goal is just to sell as many as possible, whatever that looks like. But once I'm in the game, there's a whole nother piece to that. There's the business end, right? Like I have to be promoting my stuff, and I have to be out there, and I have to be doing school visits, and focusing more on the business side than I am right now. So
Oh, okay. Is that a part of the business that you just struggle with, or is it just something you haven't had enough time to pay
yeah,
to?
I'm definitely an artist. Much more than I am a business person. So yeah, totally. So I'm glad for the time to kind of grow into that too, because I know it's as important, if not more important, to get your work out there.
I think it's probably similar, Joe, to you as a content creator, right? Like there's the content creation side. If all you did was create the content, but you didn't help to build the funnels for people to access it and be informed and aware, awareness and access have to come with content creation. So,
Got it.
Steph has the access, right? Because she has people that are going to publish it and distribute it in stores and all that kind of stuff. And she has the content she's creating, but the awareness piece you have to build that and work on that
That's
part.
very intentional.
For sure. I saw somewhere, or I actually was listening to a podcast, and the guy says a leader without followers is just a guy taking a walk.
Yeah, yeah,
I get it.
yeah.
I definitely. So, with that, so actually, where, especially Steph, I mean, Eli, will have people follow you as well, but to help Steph out, she's got some great books, some great concepts coming your way. Where can we find you specifically, Steph? Where are you, or where are you going to be promoting the book? Is it a website? Is it a specific IG outside of just yours? Where can people start to understand more about what you're writing about and who your stories might connect with?
Yeah, if you're interested in coming for the ride, I have an IG account. I'm on Twitter. You can follow me at Stef, Stef, not a PH, Stef, Foster Brown. Yeah, and I want to be pretty transparent about each step of the game. And I do my launch and I start selling books. And so it should be fun.
I'm super excited for that. As far as, I mean, listen, I've already said that both of you have been such an archetype to follow. As far as supporting your partner, as far as I guess handling some of these major transitions, what are some advice that you would give to those who are listening who might be struggling, right? Maybe struggling to understand why someone would want to take this leap, and also might be struggling to bring it to their partner because they feel it's too much. So, from both perspectives, what was some advice that you might share with them?
I think kind of break that big leap into phases and find like if you're doing something else right now but you want to be doing something totally different, find what part of that you can manage with what you're doing right now. Some piece of it. So for me that looked like just starting to take classes.
Mm.
And then gradually add to that and just see how it feels, how it goes.
Digestible bites. Okay, I love that. What about you, E?
I think there's a few pieces. Sometimes I don't think it has anything to do with your partner, spouse, whoever, right? Like there's some work to do beforehand. Are
Mm.
you really driven to do that thing? Are you talented to do that thing? Just because you
He
like
said my
to think,
wife talented, so it was
no,
easy. He said my baby was
you think she's
talented, so
gonna
I
got
was.
it. She got it. But not everybody does. So you need to
I got
figure
it.
that
That
out.
that is
Because
actually
if you
that
don't, you might have to
that's a
build it.
conversation people do need to
They
have.
got to have that
Yeah.
conversation with themselves because it might be a longer journey because you need to build that skills. You could have passion is great. Passion without skills and talent takes a long time to get there. And
Mm.
so I think you have to have some of that conversation because you can't just show up to your spouse and be like, or whoever, or just to yourself and be like, I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna become a singer. I'm doing this. And you can't sing.
Can't hold a
You can't
note.
hold a note. Or,
Mm.
or
No
yeah,
lyrics.
or you I want to become a fitness content creator. I want to become a wellness, fitness, lifestyle, health creator, and you out here looking like a hot, crusty mess. Nobody's gonna. You can't do that. You have to figure it out
Got it.
first, and then
I do love
yeah,
Steph's comment about her content was really just a reflection of the life that she lived and the culture that she's coming from. I think one of the things that we miss so much, right? And Eli just kind of touched base on it, is you don't have to preach to anyone if you're living what you're if you're living it, they'll see it, they'll feel it. You can talk about all kinds of things, but
yeah,
if they don't see it, hear it, feel it come through naturally, it's just not gonna hit.
it's not.
Mhm.
No,
That's true.
I think some things are just innately there. No, you get it. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta speak from a place that you know.
Yeah, and I think in a relationship, your spouse knows you. The longer you're together, your spouse sometimes knows you better than yourself.
Yeah,
So
they can call you out and stuff too. Like that's not you.
yeah,
Yeah. I
like
think I had a few stories that Eli was like, "Why are you writing that?" Like,
yeah,
yeah,
like that's a no. But you learn and grow together, and and you figure it out. But yeah, like Stefan, we'll call each other out on things that we're just
yeah,
not.
honesty too.
Yeah, honesty,
Just opening up,
honesty, and
letting it flow.
no offense, or try not to be offended. That's a work in progress.
Almost like understanding that there's positive intent no matter how I say this.
There's not always positive intent.
No.
Oh shit. At least you're honest with it. He said, yo, listen,
I wouldn't say that.
I'm coming at you
I wouldn't say that.
purposefully.
But trying not to be offensive, trying not to be offended. That's the work, right? You're always trying not to be offended.
What is the thing that you so I guess with these new careers, right? What is the thing that even now that you're afraid to shoot for that you know that you want, right? What is the next thing? And maybe it's not completely next. For me, I would say it's um, taking the business fully online, right? Like some of the like this year is a big transition for me because I've gone from I love the coaching, but really going into more of the content creating because that is the thing that sets me on fire. And for a long time, I've been really afraid just to be like, I love being on stage. I love getting in front of people and bringing stories and bringing people that I respect like you to them like having people understand that we're all going through the same stuff through stories and people that I love. That really for me is so much like you said, just me and Ava say it differently. We say do what you love to make money, don't make money to do what you love. And that's what I'm trying to do and be, an example of what is the thing that you currently, if you don't mind sharing, are afraid to admit that you want, if anything, with your current career role or something different?
What do you got?
Um,
A bestseller.
I'm not afraid to admit that though.
Hey, okay,
Um,
okay. What is it?
um, think I have something at this point that I'm
Perfect.
married to it.
That's
It's just
dope.
that's been a work in progress. But yeah, I want it all. I want awards. I want a bestseller. Yeah.
Um,
Eli,
I don't have an afraid to admit, but I might have things that I'm hesitant to do
pursue.
and pursue
Like.
just because you have phases of life. You gotta figure out like where, what you can and can't do it and at what time. I think I eventually, like in my current job, I, I'm I'm more thoughtful about how we get the business as a whole, the entire company to kind of work well. How do we get different stakeholders to partner with each other in really strategic, effective ways? And that's great.
Okay.
I enjoy that. And ultimately, everything that we do or that I do serves in some part Google's broader missions and is trying to be helpful to others. I would like to move myself with time closer to the philanthropic sides of that. So,
Okay.
where are we doing things that are helping, kids and families, or helping nonprofits, or helping tangibly, like specific challenges that are social in nature, not so just commercial. And so I think that's probably what's next, but I don't know a time or anything. And I think for now, I got to just like focus on getting these kids out the house. Don't-
Hey, I hear. Actually, that leads me to one of the questions that has been pretty consistent here on the show. Uh, what do you see as the third chapter for you each individually, but also as a couple? So the third chapter being the kids are out of the house. You know, you obviously have a strong relationship, it seems, together now, but things seem to open up when you're not consistently daily involved in the kids' lives. Have you guys put any thought into that? Have you guys had any conversations about that yet?
Well, we're first. That's number one. They're second. So let's just be clear. That's how it
Okay,
works.
let's go into that a little bit. I love to hear. I personally love to hear that. Break that down for
Well,
us.
I think you have to always keep. I think that's what you're saying about, sometimes people are like, well, it's been the kids, the kids, the kids, and then my kids leave, and then what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine, and that's how that person chose to navigate their relationships. But ultimately, Stephanie was here before the kids, and Stephanie will be here after the kids. So Stephanie's first, and then
Ooh.
after Stephanie, they are right there. Well, God, Stephanie, then them, right? So
Yeah.
so that's the order. That's the order. God, Stephanie, then them, and that's great. And when they're married, I should fall below their spouse. That's how it should work, right? So I think when we're raising strong, capable women who are going to do great things. And when they go off and do great things, we're probably going to be around supporting them and helping them. But we're probably also going to be traveling and pursuing other dreams that we have and things that we want to do. And by then, hopefully, not having as many bills and places we got to drive them on the weekends. So, yeah, so it'll be hopefully just enjoyment.
My man said I want to travel and have less
Yeah.
bills. That's it. What
Well,
about you, Steph? Are you writing into the sunset, or do you see that transitioning into something else?
Yeah, no, that's the goal. I'd be perfectly happy if I wrote into the sunset. I'd love to get to the point where maybe we could pick up and go live, I don't know, in Brazil for 3 months and then come back. And maybe
Hey,
do some service work in another
now you're
location.
talking
Or,
my
but
language.
but we don't
yeah,
want to wait for the kids to graduate for that.
no,
That's
no,
something we want to do with them.
yeah,
Those are
in the
the things we
next
would do with them.
10
Yeah,
to 15 years. Yeah,
yeah. That's in like the next decade.
Oh, so you guys would go with them 3 months to
Yeah,
Brazil
yeah.
while they're in school?
Summers.
maybe summers. Yeah,
In the
Some. Oh, that makes
summer.
sense.
Yeah,
That's a smooth move. I love that.
that's the
that'd be
goal.
cool.
I'd say that's the next goal, right? How do we figure that one out and get that going?
I love that you guys are. First of all, I love the idea that you are putting each other first. I did see one person, Eli, that was missing. Where do you stack up in that list of important people?
You know, I think that has been my biggest item I've been figuring out post 40. Somewhere along the way, I fell out of the stack. And I'm relearning myself and refiguring out what I want and refiguring out what makes me tick, what makes me happy, what makes me healthy, what makes me mentally sound, what makes me emotionally strong. Like those things are have been, I think those we you I didn't realize, and you knew me in a time where I was doing a lot of serving and working and volunteering and you give, you're trying to do a lot of those things and you don't realize you're not saving space for yourself. And
Mm.
then when the pandemic hit and we were just there's so many things thrown at us. I think that was like the last little bit that just kind of broke off. And I think with I'd say the last year, I've started to become way more thoughtful
Mhm.
and intentional. And it's work. It's not easy. Like it's a lot of work to figure that out. So where do I fit in the equation? I don't know if I figured that out yet, but I would say, you know, I'm figuring that out. I'm refiguring that out.
And Steph, in a family of five, if you count the dog, uh, how do you find time to carve out for yourself?
It's a good question. Yeah, I think you have to be intentional about it. There are some seasons in my life when I'm better at it than others. I'm fortunate enough to be pursuing that something that like fills me up. So it's not just like
Mm.
a job, but like it feels so good to me and it like nurtures me. So that I guess in the form of my work is self care in some ways because I love it. I enjoy doing it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That does feel good to be able to go and do something on a regular basis that is also for you, like you guys were saying. The money will come. Do something that you care about because it just makes sense that that would make life
Hmm.
more fulfilling. Like I know a lot of people who will straight up say, work is work, and I'll play when I'm off, and it's like you spend so much time
Yeah.
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 there at work,
Yeah.
but the mentality that this is just to get to, like, why wouldn't you turn that into something that
100% agree. I think that actually connects to your first question too about what were the motivators to pursue something different, right? Like if
mm,
you're not being if you're not excited about getting up on Monday morning, there's a problem that you need to figure out in terms of your career and your job and what you do with your time. And I don't think we were necessarily, well, I wasn't miserable, but I was happy with my job, but I also knew things that I wanted to pursue. And so if you want to do those things, do them. And when you're doing something you enjoy, it helps to nourish you. And um, yeah, the job I have now is very good about wellness and care of its employees and being thoughtful about creating a healthy environment for them. And it's great.
Yeah. And the reality is in life, like you're not always going to be able to do things that you love to do. Like there are steps to get there,
Yep.
but you can find ways to bring pieces of those things that you love into your life, whatever form or amount of time that you do have. So I think you kind of have to just make life work for where you are in that season.
I think you can mostly do what you. I disagree. I think you can mostly do what you love to do, but you have to be willing to make the go on the pendulum of sacrifices because you're doing the things you love to do, right? So
Yeah.
some, it's like the kid who graduates from college and or the person who takes the job that is practical because it pays the bills, or the person that's willing to not get the house but get the one bedroom apartment and do the thing they love to do because they'd rather do that and not have the luxury lifestyle.
So I guess you can't have it all at once, but you can have pieces of what you want.
I hear you. I'm curious if we could all have it all at once. It just may take like Eli was talking about the pendulum. Like maybe we start off at one, but consistency we get more added to the bucket, right? Like maybe it's almost like
Yeah.
shopping. It's like I know the list of things that I want, and as I go through the grocery store, I'm putting more in the cart and more in the cart, and hopefully before I check out, before I leave the grocery store of life, hopefully I've added enough things to the basket to where I am full, even if it didn't start out
Yeah,
that way.
Yeah, and finding contentment, because that's different than like wanting it all, right? Like I am
Mm,
pursuing being finding a place of being content. That's really hard. I don't think people register that sometimes. Like you sometimes you can be pursuing, you can still pursue more and more and more, but are you
mm-hmm.
content with where you're at?
Yeah, are you happy with where you are right now? I do see and feel like happiness is uh the difference between what your actual reality is and what you think your reality should
Hmm.
be.
Mhm.
So I feel like I am pretty ambitious. I feel like I do have some, lofty desires, but I am really happy right now.
Yeah, yeah,
Really happy with my life right now. Although I do want more, but I feel like those people who are happy, or I'm sorry, unhappy, have this idea of, oh, my life should be, my relationship should be like, no, this is what it's at. And if you want that difference, go get it.
yeah,
But to think that it should just be there now, I think is where that unhappiness is, because it's expecting a futuristic possibility in the moment that you either haven't worked for or isn't
yeah.
there.
Mhm.
Expectations.
Yeah.
So before we get going, what any questions that you guys have for me? I mean, I know I get to see you guys, I reach out here and there, we talk a little bit. Any questions, any things that has come up throughout the interview that you want to
I
touch
want
on?
to hear from you. You asked us the question, what's something you're afraid to admit that you really want to see? But how would you answer that question?
I mean, I think I'm doing it now. I think that was the thing, like the switching to being more content driven to, I think I've forever, I wanted to find a voice and I wanted people to listen and I wanted to be like that guy. And I don't think I was ever really okay with admitting that. Like uh, I remember trying out for, I think it was like a musical in high school, and I killed the dance and I killed the speaking part. But I knew if I sang, it would become a reality, like if I was good or not. Like, was I? And I just like happened to miss the singing part and never did it. And, I had that, oh, like I probably was good enough, but like who, like, because I never closed the loop, I was able to like keep the idea that no, I could, but I just didn't, I couldn't finish that one
Mhm.
part. And for me, I think this is it. I mean, definitely right now, I'm trying to lean into it as much as possible. And that's a daily pleasure and a struggle, because some days it's like, damn, this sucks. Or like, can I, like for me, self doubt just doesn't go away. It's just something that I have to continue to climb on. Like some days
Mhm.
it's there and I have to, like, I have my little checklist and I try and get through my checklist, and that day is a little bit more arduous than the day when I'm like, yo, you are that, bro. You are that dude. Yeah. That I think this is it right now, for the longest time. And that's kind of where the question became it comes from, because uh, I'm sitting in it constantly, and finally admitting like, yo, this is who I am and who I want to be, and hopefully enough people, like you said, niche down. I mean, I love talking to parents, teachers, and leaders. That's why we're here now. I love the journey of being a dad. I love coaching. Um, and as a person, I love uh, helping connect. In my email email signature says bridge builder. Getting people from that A to B is there are a few things that I get to do on a regular basis that I enjoy more. So hopefully I can turn that into a little bit of Skrilla.
Well, you seem very, very happy and like comfortable in what you're doing. Comfortable
It's
in it.
getting there.
Yeah, man.
Slow and
Well,
steady.
I mean, we were
Slow and
there when
steady.
you were doing the boot camps. We would come
Yeah,
to
we
warn you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We
You guys
warn
used to come
you.
to the boot camp. It's actually interesting. When you were talking about Steph, the promoting, the getting your stuff out there. instantly in my head, I'm like, you got a guy sitting right next to you who, whether he likes it or knows it or not, loves that stuff. When I used to talk about content creation, when I used to talk about the podcast, when I used to talk about so how are you? What do you like? He was all in on that type of creativity. I would be, is there a dream team, meet the Browns, breadcrumb business?
Let you answer that.
Is that a possibility? Because I know my man Eli likes that behind the scenes, like you said, project management,
I'm behind
execution.
Well, Eli always he has an idea of the day, not even the week, the day of the day. So yeah, we're always brainstorming and thinking about what's next. I don't know.
No.
So what I said was, is there a possibility?
She has her world. I have to respect the space and let her do her thing. And I will be here when she needs anything, forever and always. But you have to know, as a husband, when you need to mind your business. And let them
I love it. I absolutely love it. Thank you to everyone who came through to the Wake Up Warrior podcast today. Thank you, Eli and Steph, for joining us. If you're a parent, teacher, or leader and struggling with any of these things, please take the nuggets that they have given us, whether it's you taking that leap yourself, whether it's a partner who is on the brink of it, and you could be the catalyst that helps them really understand that it's okay to take that opportunity. I really appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to share it. Subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on one of the podcast platforms, please leave a review. 5 stars is always the best. If you thought it was shit, just give me one more episode, please. Please, just don't review the next one. Review the podcast on the next one, please. But to everyone, I really appreciate it. Thanks for the wake up. Be well.
Take care.